Okay, kia ora koutou. We are online with Thomas Nabbs from the Waterboy. Kia ora, Tom. We are talking all things turning ideas into reality. And yeah, just the journey of startup, hey, and just like screwing it up, doing it well, and learning things. I think we'll just wait a couple of minutes before some people drop on. But I just wanted to start off this conversation by saying, you know what, however you want to spend your time in lockdown is entirely fine. If you are feeling energized and inspired and motivated and would like to turn a project into reality, this is the chat for you. If you're just trying to figure out what you're going to have for dinner because things are a bit rough at the moment, that's okay too, and you don't need to put pressure on yourself to turn projects into reality. You're more than welcome to stay on this conversation as well, though. It might be something that's inspiring or brings you some hope. But yeah, just know that whatever feels good and right for you, whānau, is exactly where you should be. So yeah, we're going to jump into a conversation here talking about turning ideas into reality. So kia ora, Nabbs. How are you?
Kia ora, Jim. Oh, fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. Today's a good day. How's today been for you?
It's been really good. Got some good work out of the way this morning, and then I've just been for a big run, and I've been to walk the dog. We're quite productive and really effective at the Waterboy, and I've just been down to see on the walk. I went down to see my wife down at her work and just took some time out of the day to have a 2-minute little catch up with her, which was cool, and now jumping onto here. So yeah, it's been a cool day.
Nice. I called it quits at about midday and turned my electric blanket on, loaded up Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and made myself some pasta. So, yeah.
Some days I have those days too, and then for me though, the key is like if you've been productive. Like I don't pat myself on the back too much, but with the shoe on the other foot, if I haven't been so productive, I don't beat myself up too much either.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah,
it is what it is. Just go with it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I just trust that. I just trust that if I'm in those situations when I am feeling better, that I'll just do the mahi and smash it out because I like what I do. And
that resonates. It's crazy how much energy you can create around a goal you're so passionate about and you care so much about. It's cool to hear that that's true for you too. Be cool to hear what's been the biggest challenge for you during the last couple of weeks. Has there been
the last couple of weeks? Okay, that's a bit easier. I thought you were going to say since saying the Waterboy. I thought, the biggest challenge in the last couple of weeks has been. I was trying not to make it work related, but I think the biggest challenge has been work related, and it's been staying connected on the same page in the communication flows, which I think it's just natural that they drop off when they're over phone and Zoom, right? Otherwise, people wouldn't work together in the first place. And so yeah, it's been really good for us too in the same breath, because if and when we want to expand, which we do, we can't always be working in the same room. So it's been great to get the learnings of what systems and processes are needed to be more effective when we're in separate locations.
What are you finding? Have you found anything that's working well or not working well with that?
Yeah. I always find personally when we use Asana, or not necessarily Asana as such, but just a project management tool, and we're all on the same wavelength, we're a lot more effective, and I think everyone feels a lot more connected as well because they know what everyone else is working on. And there's good visibility, and then it's easier to not use Asana when you're together, but it's still actually more effective. And I suppose it is a plug for Asana. It's an unpaid plug, but whatever tool you're using, it's just essential way to have everyone on the same page. Yeah,
for sure. We've definitely gone through, oh my goodness, so many different softwares. I think we started with Kanban Flow, then went to Trello, then we had Asana, and now we're in Planner, which is a Microsoft product, and because we're charity, you can use all their products for free. So, what a mix though, testing and using all these different softwares.
I didn't know those Microsoft products are free for charities.
Yeah.
That's a real good heads up.
Yeah, free email, free, and then all their products. So we use Microsoft Teams for video calls. Yeah, like
how do you jump on that?
I think we registered through TechSoup, and then you get given a code, and then and then husband, because he's IT person, IT guru, he just set it all up for us, which was sick.
I like it.
Hey, kia ora, there's 16 people on the line with us. Can we, who's here? Drop a comment in the little thing below. Let us know who you are. Let us know why you're here. Let us know what you've come for, so that we can answer some of your questions. So
just quickly as well, Jim, I know you're the host here, but how have you been on the rāhui, on the isolation?
Hey, look, thanks for asking, Nabbs. It's just day by day. Hey, it's some days are good. We've got Malachi at home, 7-month-old baby. Jesse's hours luckily we're able to get his hours reduced. So I've been able to keep working. This brings me a lot of purpose, a lot of joy, a lot of sanity. And just getting creative with cooking. And just like you were saying before, sometimes it's just surrendering to today's a good day, and so I'm going to bust some awesome stuff out. And yesterday wasn't a good day, and so I'm not, it's just being okay with that and not beating yourself up, which has been a big learning for me since becoming a mum, because you can't pump it as big as you did before. Priorities have changed. So it'd be cool to touch a little bit on well-being too for you. What's some of the real strategies or tools that really support good well-being for you?
I think personally, well-being and mental health and mental well-being especially, and physical, there are different natural variations, just like there are different natural body shapes, and you'll see some people eat and exercise the exact same amounts, and then some people will be larger and some people will be smaller just naturally because of metabolism. And I don't know if it's research based, but I feel as though mental well-being is very similar. And I may be speaking complete crap here, but that's just from my layman's experience. And I definitely do use tools, but also I think I'm really lucky in that I think naturally I'm quite happy. And my biggest tool, though, is my perspective. I always choose my perspective no matter what, and always think, hey, if that person, if I was in that person's shoes and I'd walked a mile or lived their life, would I be any different? So that's just adapting the perspective that you want to choose, and I think that's a proven tool in positive psychology, isn't it? But that's a massive one for me.
No, that's awesome. It's definitely I think in there just realizing you're not your thoughts, you're not your feelings. You observe those things, and you can decide how you want to be. You can you can feel empowered around that. I definitely know, as someone that experiences bipolar and schizophrenia, though, that there are days where, as much as I want to choose something better, I can't, and I just have to surrender to it. So I like your analogy, though, of just kind of acknowledging we're all walking our own paths, and I've got to do a lot more around my mental well-being to be okay, whereas others don't, and that's just part of, I'm cut from a different cloth, and being okay with that. But it's cool to hear that just perspective is something that's really supported you to be able to live a more fulfilling life. I love that. That's awesome.
Perspective and appreciation, and they're much in the same thing. They go hand in hand, but just appreciating real small things and Yeah.
That's cool. Me and Jessie have started doing gratitude walks. We'll get out of the house for 30 minutes and it's just a bounce of things we're grateful for the walk. And you come back and it's just like, whoa, I'm so much more energized and, yeah, just in a totally different space, like mentally, to tackle the rest of the day. So, yeah, definitely appreciation's a big one for me as well. It'd be cool to hear about the Waterboy. Can we get into it, Tom?
Absolutely.
Tell us about the Waterboy and why you started it.
Sure. So the Waterboy is two different things. Well, there's two different brands in Te Tamai Trust. So the Waterboy is the original one, and we've definitely evolved that to have also Taku Wairua alongside. And I know a Waterboy recipient and also Taku Wairua participant, Carly's just said that she's watching, and also it looks like Melissa from Len Reynolds Trust, who's a big supporter of Taku Wairua, is watching as well. So kia ora to you guys. But Waterboy, I'll start from the start, and then we'll get into what it is today. Waterboy is a charitable trust, and we work to break down barriers to give Kiwis opportunities to participate in sport as a means of creating stronger people and stronger communities. And it comes from the fact that I think that every Kiwi deserves an opportunity to participate in sport, because sport gives us mental and physical health benefits and leadership skills, social skills, interpersonal skills. It teaches us how to win and lose, gives us self-confidence and self-esteem and self-respect, and also respect for others, people from other cultures and races and religions and people from different social sectors. And I know that sport for me growing up, I met so many people from so many different walks of life and I'm really grateful for those friendships that I made, but I perhaps and probably wouldn't have made if it wasn't for sport. And I've got massive appreciation for example, the Mormon religion, because of all the Poly brothers that I used to play footy with, and they're some of my really good mates now. And obviously it's not just Polynesian, but there was a strong church college presence in all the Waikato teams that I played for, and yeah, got to become quite good friends and understand their take on life, I suppose. And look, that's just one small example. Sport brings families together, and the conversations and the pride that used to emanate from parents and extended family when we'd go along and watch each other play sport. You didn't necessarily have to be that good at it, but I think sport's just one of those times that humans are at their best. They're just having fun and they're enjoying themselves, and for me, that's what life's about. And you're getting all those development things as well. So I think that every Kiwi should have the opportunity to participate in sport, and I think that it sucks that they don't, and that's why we go about trying to reach our vision, and our vision is to enable the opportunity for every Kiwi to participate in sport and personal development activities and make that an achievable option. But the whole reason of why we're trying to enable people to participate in sport is to create better people, right? It's not necessarily we're not trying to make or create champions. If someone becomes a champion from Waterboy's support and sponsorship, look, that's cool. We'll celebrate that in due course, but it's a byproduct of what we're trying to achieve. We'll also celebrate people making great social decisions, becoming leaders within their family and their community, and getting active and potentially becoming a lot more physically healthy and confident and a lot more self-esteem. And we see that through so many of our recipients. And yeah, just having a lot more purpose. And it's not just like, I know this family we support in Rotorua, their kids got into sport, and the biggest change was actually their mum. She was so proud of the kids that she wanted to do something for herself as well, and she quit smoking, and she wanted to coach the netball team that her daughter was a part of, but she didn't have the skills to coach because she admitted to herself, I probably don't know enough to be able to coach this team. So she became the manager though, and then so she was going and organising everyone, and that change has been massive for that whole household, because they've got like a real sense of purpose and a little bit more structure to their week, and also just the running around and being physical and stuff. So that their sport is just a vehicle for creating stronger people, stronger communities, and it's not the only vehicle. And it's not the only vehicle that we use, and there are so many good vehicles and different strokes for different folks, right? So if someone's musically inclined and really has got a little bit of talent there, or resonates with music a lot more than sport, and gets those same benefits, the self-confidence and self-esteem, respect, and they make friends out of it, man, go and do that. Like, just find something that you're really good at. Maybe like definitely try and keep up your physical exercise, because music may or may not give you the same physical exercise. I know some instruments do, but
I remember my flute days of playing the flute.
And I mean drums, you know, like even and whenever I play guitar, I always get a good sweat on. I'm like, man, how hard is it, you know? But and I'm not saying that every Kiwi should do sport. I'm saying I personally believe that every Kiwi should have the opportunity to participate in sport if they so wish. And so, like, and what came of that as well is that I'll just go a little bit more into it. So we organise sponsors to businesses. Typically, we always started off as businesses. We get a little bit of grant funding from various amazing organisations who are partnering with people like us and people like you, Seed, who try and support people in the community, and we partner with corporate businesses as well, and just philanthropic individuals to help them live and show their values. And the classic old Maslow's theory, we have people, it becomes a real human need to support others, especially after you've supported yourself, or if you're comfortable yourself. The human soul actually starts craving, well, hang on, now that I'm supported, how can I leave the world in a better place than we found it? And hopefully that's where we can come in and help people to achieve that. Kia ora to everyone saying hi. Hey Sas, how you doing? And then where was I now? So that's how we started, and we started pairing people who needed the support with people who wanted to give support, and making that a real cool experience. So they would always meet the recipients, and they'd often develop some sort of relationship where they'd come along and watch their sport, or they would catch up with them maybe once every few months or 6 months, see how they're doing. And that was real purposeful, because I think that there's not too many opportunities, if you do want to make a difference to someone, that you get to meet them. Like, so if you're sponsoring a child in Africa per se, you don't actually necessarily ever you might receive some letters and whatnot, but you never physically get to meet them and see where your support's going, and develop that relationship and hear their story, and for them to hear your story. And that's real strong in itself. Our recipients having to look someone in the eye and shake their hands, and often, like, sometimes go into a workplace, a corporate environment that they're typically estranged to, because they've never been in that situation in their lives, and having to get out of their comfort zone, and then realize that, oh, these people are actually here to support me, and they just want the best for me, and that's a real cool life experience in itself. And then we sort of developed that. We initially had we were unapologetic about having a sniper rifle as opposed to a shotgun, and just supporting very, very few recipients, but giving great depth of support, and really trying to change their life, as opposed to giving width of support with just a little bit of a sprinkling of help here and there. But we've evolved that model a little bit, and so now we have at the top of our, if anyone wants to click onto our website, which Saskia, who's on this chat, developed for us, and I think she did designs for Seed Waikato too. She does some amazing work in the community. Old Saskia Melville. She's also a trustee on Graham Dingle Foundation Waikato, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. Didn't know that, Saskia. That's epic. Congrats.
Yeah, I hope that's public knowledge, Saskia. Whoops. Sorry. And then, so if you go onto the website, you can see our one-page business plan, which is really cool because it gives us guidance as to what we're up to, but also gives everyone else guidance, internal and external guidance, our board of trustees, for example, and just anyone, right? You can see exactly what we're up to, what we're doing, how we're doing it, when we're doing it, and what we're trying to achieve, but most importantly, why we're trying to achieve it, because as Mr. Cynic says, always start with why. Question from Len Reynolds Trust. Do the kids ever not want to meet their sponsors, or do their whānau not want to meet their sponsors? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes there is, yeah, there are, and there's different levels of sponsorship these days. Since we've had Good George come on and support us from there. If you go into a Good George menu and you order a meal, you can go through the menu, and certain items on the Good George food list there, I think it's $1 or $2 get donated toward Waterboy recipients. And if you don't want to meet your sponsor, that's what we call a tier 3 support, and you can just have it's not as much support as the other ones, but Good George.
I think it's more on the other side. Are there ever any times where the kids don't want to connect in with the sponsors or like recipients?
There are both, but if the kids don't want to meet their sponsors, then we recommend that they go for the tier 3 support. If you're wanting a little bit more, like families can have up to thousands of dollars a year of support from us. We're saying if that's the case, then we do want you to meet your sponsors, and the sponsors will want to meet you as well. If not, then there is less support available, but it's still in line. Like the support that Good George give is enough that it's still in line with our vision of making sport an achievable option for every Kiwi. So I think if we can grow that and scale that to different regions, which we're currently putting in the groundwork on at the moment, then I think we'll go a long way to reaching our vision. And then so then we have at the top of the funnel, we now have everybody's game, which is a presentation about inclusivity and acceptance, and it was derived from the research that I saw around homophobia in sport and on the sports field, and we're about breaking down barriers to enable people to participate in sport. And we go around high schools with. We've had some All Blacks in the past. We've had a few of the Chiefs players. We've had a couple of Silver Ferns, Casey Korpua. We've had Shane Way, who's very familiar to Seed Waikato, Hani Hirami, Stacey Waka, Robbie Manson, Mitch Graham, who's one of the Chiefs boys. And he's also had a lot to do with the setup of Seed. Way
back in the day. Mitch
one of the OGs.
Yeah.
So we just go around and talk to high schools about their actions and language, and just accepting people for who they are, not just the minority sexualities, but it crosses over to anything, really. Just any difference. Just because someone's not like you, it doesn't mean that, like, that's any less or any more. So those are pretty powerful conversations, and I'm really proud of the work that we do there, especially because, Jim, I was probably one of those jock boys that we're now talking to, and if I also think that if someone had come and spoken to me about that, that I probably would have be a bit more mindful about what comes out of there, and hopefully make some other lives easier. But also like the homosexual athletes that we have, and personalities that we have, your Robbies and Honey and Shane, and those folks who've got that mana to step up on stage and talk about that part of themselves, makes it so much easier for those youth or those people even just in the audience, but also the message that we put out on digital, because it's all well and good like speaking to a couple of 100 or 1,000 kids at once, but it's digital that we get the most traction and that you can put it out to further. And then so that starts at the top of our funnel, and then we come down to Dabble Days, where we just give typically under like lower decile schools is our target, but if high decile schools ask us to come and host the Dabble Day, we won't say no, but we're just trying to throw out lots of different sporting options to people. Hopefully they haven't tried them before, so we have like different ones, like what's some out the gate ones. We've had Julia Ratcliffe come along and demonstrate hammer throw. We've had indoor rowing, archery. So like, and that's just because you're like, hopefully we're cutting through that. Even if you sort of play a bit of footy with 2 left feet, don't mean that you can't be good at archery or find something. It doesn't mean you're not good at sport, and it doesn't mean that sport's not for you. Maybe you just haven't found the right one that you enjoy the most. And so
I definitely remember being at school and like anything long distance was terrible, but anything short, just like 100-meter sprint or like a shot put or a javelin, like anything that was just like a pah, I was like all about it. Anything else? I started with the longer distance and the other sports, and I thought, sport's not for me, because I can't do it. But it was just trying something different. So it's so cool to hear that those Dabble Days are a pathway for young people to just try a few different things maybe they haven't before.
Yeah, and we try and make it real fun. So we put music on with all of it. Like none of this just like, so they're all, and they get to hopefully pick the music and pick their own jams. And and we don't do any drills or anything. It's just all games that are sometimes loosely, hopefully quite closely associated with the sport. So if we're like doing softball, we might do a game of rounders or something, or t-ball, so it's like the skill sets are closely aligned. But some of the more harder to pick up skills are cast aside just in the name of everyone being able to hopefully fall in love with sport and fall in love with potentially that specific sport. And then we have an avenue where we're able to sign up those people who are interested that day, and then get them registered with local clubs and stuff like that. Now, if we call them back 3 or 4 days later and we say, hey, how did registration go? How did your first session go? And all of a sudden, like not that keen anymore. And we unearth that there might be a barrier, then we can roll our sleeves up, and we can, with good George's support, we can more or less just, if they fit the criteria, and there is a true barrier there, we can just offer them support if finances is a barrier. And then we can also grow a relationship with them and offer them more support if it's needed, but then more importantly, get into what is now a massive focus for us in COVID-19, which is taku wairua, and which taku wairua is an initiative that used to be under the Waterboy, but now it's grown so much that it's a brand of its own, and that's a personal development program that originated from me taking all of these kids around to sport, and then so I'd like always ask them, what do you want to do after school? What are you sort of working toward outside of sport? How's family life, etc.? And they're always, I don't know. And then so it was just like a series of questions, and I did like a little bit of research into what we should be doing, and then it turned into a mentorship program, and it's been real powerful. And like we've set some pretty strong goals, and we've made some real strong changes, and like some of those, I truly believe that there's this one recipient of ours who wouldn't be alive if it weren't for Waterboy and taku wairua, and just would essentially saved her life
from suicide, I reckon, and she's a pretty happy girl these days, and it's pretty awesome and humbling to be a part of, and and Carly's she's just started doing the taku wairo, because the taku wairo sessions are online now, so that's been a result of the COVID with. If I just take a step back as to where we were, we had dabble days and everybody's game, and then if people getting benefit of that, and then they're wanting a little bit more support, then they can come down into the sponsorship, and then we can come down even further to participate in taku wairua, which is again that acknowledgement that sport's only one vehicle for creating stronger people, and this taku wairua we believe is a real strong vehicle for creating belonging. So we go through pepeha and whakapapa, and questions around who I am, kōrero, and then we go on to goal setting. Obviously, we've got an app for that, which Len Reynolds has been a massive part of funding, and Hugo fund the operations of taku wairua. Sky City Trust, I think, funded quite a bit of the app, and the Gallagher Family Trust as well. So it's been pretty cool the way that the community have jumped around getting that app developed for goal setting. But Waikato have sort of helped us to get because it's been all in a handbook, which has got its limitations. We just need to get those online quickly for the COVID, because during COVID lockdown, people have got extra time. They've got a need for connection, which taku wairua helps with immensely, and it's a really good time to be able to support mental well-being and direction and purpose in your life. So that's
awesome. I mean, it's really cool to understand a little bit more about the model as well, like what those different things you've been able to create to work with different types of young people. And I'm sure there's a bunch of people on at the moment that are here who are really keen to understand a little bit more of the the journey, the behind the scenes, and wanting to know how you go from an idea into reality. And I guess you're here talking about this reality and what it looks like now. And I'm super keen to dig in a little bit more and understand, what were some of those big moments for you in turning this vision you had into reality. And I thought maybe we could just start with, like, when you look back over the time that you've been building the Waterboy, can you think of three big challenges that you've had to overcome in building it, and what supported you to overcome them? Because time and time again, I'm sure you've heard from a bunch of different young people as well, and wanting to turn an idea into reality. Time and time again, there are no's. There's money issues. It feels like you're being pulled in every direction, and there's every reason to give up on your vision. And so I'm always curious to understand, how do people keep going when it's really hard? And when you reflect back, what are those big moments that when you look back, you're like, that was a boulder, but I got through it, and this was how. So I think that'd be really helpful for some of the people that are on at the Mo, keen to learn more about making things happen. Can we go there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I spoke about at the start, and I said that I think it was on air and not one of our pre-chats, but I talked about how I reckon I've got really good perspective, and I really do think it's one of my strengths. And the thing that I said to myself at the start was, okay, I've got this dream and I've got this idea. All of my mates are like going off and working pretty normal standard jobs, and they're earning really good coin, and they'll be definitely advancing financially more than me, right? And there's two elements there. Like, don't compare yourself to anyone else. It's not a race. I go by an 80-20 rule with comparison. I spend like 20% of the time I might just compare just to check in, because if you just stick your head in the sand and not worry about anyone else at all, then I think that's like just a little bit sort of ignorant, or like I don't know. That's just, again, it's just the rule that I go by. It's not something that I necessarily subscribe, but if you want to take it, you can. But then 80% of the time I just compare myself to myself. I just compare myself to what I want to be. I compare myself to some of the goals that I've set myself, and am I actually getting there? And then and compare myself to yesterday, right? Classic old one, but it's just what I do. So perspective, and I said to myself, all right, this probably ain't going to make a whole lot of money, but it's my absolute dream. I think there's a massive need there for it. I've seen that there's a massive need there for it with my own two eyes, and as bad as it gets, I'm never going to end up sleeping on the street. I've got real good. I'm lucky that my parents sufficient. Well, it was both my parents back then. It's just my mum these days, but they were sufficiently comfortable that even if it got really, really awful, I'd always have a roof over my head. And then I thought, okay, well, that being the case, how bad can it get? And then so that's the perspective that I took, and I just went for it. And then so there's that, and when you take that perspective, I suppose it's letting go the fear of failure. And then the other fear of failure that I think hinders a lot of people is, what's others going to think about me? Like, what are my mates going to think about me? What am I? And if you can overcome that, then that's a massive, massive recipe for success as well. Because even if you fail, you succeed. Because I tell you, Waterboy wasn't the first thing that I'd started before. I had numerous different things, and all of which were learnings. Firstly, I obviously didn't start it, but I had really good learning from working in Barclays Bank or Barclaycard in London, and we had awesome sales training there, which is amazing. And if anyone's ever got an opportunity to jump into an organisation with good sales training, I'd definitely say take that, because it's been that was really, really valuable. And then went to starting a wedding and event hire business for a bloke that I used to. He was a sponsor of the rugby club that I used to play for over in England, and then that was just amazing experience in itself. And then came back. And then worked in San Francisco, and just living and working in San Francisco, you have you're just in an environment that, I found myself just, no matter where you went, you're always talking startup, and you're always talking seed and A round, B round, and venture capital and the pre-money and post-money. It's man, I didn't even if you didn't want to be in there, you just got caught up in it. It was sort of like my brother experienced with rugby growing up, right? Wasn't that into it, but he had no choice but to be into it, because it was just everywhere. and so, but that was really, really, they were recipes for being able to come back here and then just go for it. And what was the thing? The biggest challenge there? Perspective, and then getting some, I suppose, good learns. I also did a management degree, which helped somewhat. It's great for network. The actual theories and whatnot have probably moved on a lot, especially in marketing, because that was 2007 to 10 or 6 to 10 that I did that, and marketing's just completely different now, and you just sort of learn as you go. So yeah.
I don't know how relevant. I did a management degree as well, and I think for me that the most amazing thing that happened while I was there was when I learned about spirituality and leadership and self-actualization, and just things that I wasn't expecting to learn. Can't remember the accounting stuff can't remember stat stuff, some strategy stuff, I guess. But yeah, I think it's really cool to hear that some of your foundations were built in working in other places, and to not discount or minimize just how powerful it can be to work in different places and gather learnings there, have great mentors, and be exposed to scenarios you wouldn't normally be exposed to. Because I know for me, in doing this with Seed, it's very lonely, it's very isolating. And you've got to really reach out for the help that you're looking for, but you need to be aware of what you don't know about what you don't know as well. So it's cool to kind of hear for you that time working in different places was important to kind of gather some cool insights and good knowledge to be able to get you through some challenging times.
And on that as well, just going back to the question, I know that you alluded to it in the question. There's so many no's that you get, and I remember when I started the Waterboy, there were so many no's, and it was frustrating. But one thing that used to really pick me up is I got an awesome board on, and I used to come, like, sometimes I think, oh, like, I'm just going to have to give this up, and also, like, sometimes you should give it up, because sometimes it's just heading nowhere. The idea's, excuse my French, the idea's a little bit shit. And sometimes you just got to be able to have that self-awareness that this idea is not flying for a reason.
How do you decipher? How do you have the discernment to know?
That's the tough part, right? So that is, I think, trying to get mates and or people that you trust their opinion and saying, look, mate, don't worry about offending me. Just tell me straight, should I stick at this or not? I'd get a series of people with different experiences. I wouldn't get people who, I wouldn't ask people who are necessarily have just a real safe people and just worked a straight up and down job. I would potentially ask an entrepreneur or someone who is a risk taker per se, and then just say, look, tell me straight, should I keep going with this or not? And then if you get no, then it's just like writings on the wall. Okay, swallow your pride and ego, and then just take it forward. Like Greg always says, and like so many always say, people say fall forward, right? Fail forward. So take the learnings that you've got from that, and like I took the learnings that I got from the wedding and event hire over in the UK, and then pivot if you want to. So, or if you see, okay, this isn't working in this form, but hey, I've gathered this information, and since starting this, I've discovered that there's this whole other population that need this resource or whatever, and identify opportunities that way, and then go about testing those assumptions. And so obviously, look, the other thing is to continue to learn. Just learn all the time. Just always read books, because then you can implement those learnings. So obviously, some of the stuff that I was referring to there would be your lean startup, the entrepreneur's dilemmas, and I suppose one of the best books I've ever read would be the Happiness Advantage, which is where I get my that perspective from. And Sean Aker talks about the Zorro Circle, and just sticking to what you're good at in the basics at first, and then once you have one thing, then the momentum and success breeds success. And for me, like Donald Trump's a great example of that, right? So Donald Trump wasn't a career politician. He just stuck to, okay, he had a pretty good start at it, but stuck to his being a business person, stuck to his little circle of what he does well. And then all of a sudden, if you do that really well, all these other opportunities open up, and you can become president of America, etc. And another thing, like we've just had David Galbraith come on, and it's a real cool partnership for Taku Wairua and our trust to have him. Now he's a career psychologist who's just retired and he's become a farmer, but he's never been on a governance board or anything like that. But that's just a small example of sticking to your knitting and doing what you do, and then expanding later once that thing's a success. And Taku Wairua to the Waterboy is a classic example of that. I can now start Taku Wairua because there's a need identified from the Waterboy, and then we've also got sponsorships and relationships that people trust that we'll do what we say we're going to do because we've done it in the past and reasonably successfully and made an impact there. So if we're going to say, actually, we've spotted this need, give us some money and we'll go and try and rectify that. Then people are like, okay, well, you did a pretty good job trying to rectify the last one, so let's see what you can do.
In there as well, you're a bit of a matchmaker too, really, and can kind of be that bridge between. And when I think back to when we started Seed as well, for us it was like, we had a crazy idea. It wasn't just me, there's a bunch of us, and we just thought, don't young people want more? Like, is there more of a desire to want to connect or have personal development opportunities or to be mentored, or what support do young people need in our city to make our city better? And for us, right at the start, it was all about just asking people, like, does anyone else care about that too? Like, and what we soon found, that I think we probably asked about 30 people what some of their goals were, what some of their aspirations were, what some of their challenges were, and if something was to set up, how could it help them and support them with that? And I think that had to be like the most rock solid foundation for us to get going, because it just, for us, like, there wasn't a question mark anymore. It was like, oh yeah, young people do want this, so we're just going to do something that they want. It was like the best risk mitigation strategy ever, because it was just like, you got to be good at listening, and then, like you say, matchmaking between what you've heard and what the opportunities are. And so all we've really done is just listen, set up different spaces and places for young people to share what it is that they need, what they're looking for, what their aspirations are, and then just design some really cool stuff that makes sense to that. And I don't want to oversimplify because there's a lot of magic in there, but just getting really clear on, okay, well, what is the problem we're trying to solve? What is our solution that we're thinking can address that problem, and what's the impact we're going to create by doing it? And so I think in the early days for us, having those 3 pillars really nailed really supported us to be able to get going and do it well. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely times I remember as well, we had a crew of us together, and I think we had about $2,000 in the bank account, and we just thought, we can't do this anymore. Like, this is so hard to get the support, especially in the early days when, what's to say you're going to fade away next month, next week, next year. You really need to be able to have some runs on the board for a while to be able to get some real money to support your initiative, especially if it's reliant on sponsorship or funding. If you don't have your own kind of entrepreneurial income stream bringing in big dollars to support what you're trying to do, which is why social enterprise is such an awesome model. Those early days were really freaking hard. And when I look back, I honestly, like, there was just this tiny, tiny voice that was like, keep going. And there's nothing that makes sense. It didn't make any logical sense. It was just this knowing or this deep listening and alignment with something that was higher than ourselves, I think. And yeah, it's crazy to think back to those days where there were so many times we're like, nah, we're done, this is it, this is so hard, but we just kept going because we had that belief and we knew the impact that we were creating. We knew that what we were doing was solving a problem. Yeah. And then we're able to build other things around it as we got those runs on the board, like you say. It'd be cool when you reflect back, what would you say are the biggest wins and what set you up for them?
Definitely the biggest one would be that that person, that recipient who's still alive, I reckon, that I said I don't think would be alive if it weren't for us. That's just by far and away, like I could shut up shop now and it's been a success. And then just having the community that we've built, it's so humbling, and it's like, it's pretty incredible to think back 4 years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago it might be now, and thinking, oh yeah, I've got this idea, and then having like some of Waikato's big wigs turn up to like our sponsorship breakfasts, because we have a sponsorship breakfast about once every quarter. Probably won't happen this quarter, but and I just went for a run earlier today, and I was thinking about our sponsorship breakfasts, and I was thinking, what do I want out of them, and do we need to sort of evolve and keep making that idea better? And it would be cool to think that, to have some, and I was thinking, man, imagine if there were people away in a network, or they'd become great friends, and then someone asks, how did you guys meet? Oh, we met at a Te Tamai Trust sponsorship breakfast. And that community is another real big win, and that community has a major success factor in that has been writing a book. I think that's pretty imperative. And I don't know if you've considered this in the past, Jim. I think you definitely would have at least considered it, and then I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to write a book, because for me, it's a massive key success factor for any charity, and it takes a lot of work, but you just got to muck in and do it, because it legitimizes things so much, and you can tell the stories, and storytelling is such a key element for any for-purpose organisation, right? And for any organisation, to be fair, whether it's for-profit, not-for-profit, or purpose, or not that much purpose in it. If you can tell your stories and what you're doing and why you're doing it, then it's going to have so much more emotional capture. And when you have emotional capture, then that's there. So you got Zeta telling you to write a book, but it seems a little bit daunting at first. But if you just chip away at it and eat the elephant a bite at a time, you actually find you get there, and you don't have to do it all yourself as well, right? So like, we had this amazing girl, Susanna Newton, or what's her last name now? Wanzi, and so she did a lot of the copywriting as well, and it was an awesome experience for her too, because she got to call up all our recipients and make a real good connection with them, and ask them to tell their stories. And she told me she was crying sometimes, and everyone would read a book from you, Gemma. So, and can I say, from what I know of you, it would be an incredible book. But again, so Seed's book launch 2021.
No, we did at one point. We did at one point make up the framework for it, and then there was just too many things going on. You know, I look back to some of our first year, our first 18 months, we had events and workshops every month. We made submissions to local government, central government. We did wellbeing subsidies. We had a volunteer program going on. There was so much happening. It was like
too much, in my opinion, from what I've just heard.
Way too much. Yeah. But it's just like testament to my 100-meter sprints at school and my shot put. It's just like this mad new energy that can come around anything new and shiny. And also, though, like, you know, I mentioned before, we set up different spaces and places for young people to feed back. And we would hear so many freaking insanely epic ideas that we're just like, these just need to happen. How do we just support these ideas to happen? And so I think in those earlier days, you know, the different crews that have been involved with Seed were just like, let's do that, let's do this, or let's support some other young people to make these things happen. And so there were some really cool speakers that came through because of that. And we thought, wow, it'd be so sick to be able to capture some of these stories, and then hearing the impact as well. It was really hard for us in in our earliest days to really understand what the impact was. It's like, so what, you've been inspired. What does that mean for you, and how do we tell that story? And so over time, we've just been able to, through our relationships with different young people that have come along, understand that a little bit more, whether sometimes it's as simple as like finding a friend, like that young people are feeling super isolated and disconnected, and friendship is something that can carry us through so many different times. And just coming and finding a friend, like, something as simple as that. It's not simple. It's just like the connection, the ability to connect with different people, and then and
like-minded people too. I also reckon like that's real important and imperative when you're in this role as well. And like when we're down at Social Enterprise World Forum, Jim, like I think you said it yourself, like you are mainly working in this little isolated bubble, just sometimes tearing your hair out and thinking, why do I keep going? And then you go down and there's this like whole theatre full of other people just like you and I, but that whole social connection thing, which you guys are bringing together and developing, in which we're trying to dip our toe in the water with as well. And we probably need to have a conversation. I need to pick your brain a little bit about how we can work together on that, because I think there's massive potential. And yeah, that's just huge, and it's really good for the noggin too.
Oh, heck yes. And there's so much, there's so much that comes from connection. You've got someone to talk to, you've got someone to lean on, you've got someone to have fun with, got someone to inspire you, kick you up the butt when you need it, I think sometimes we just forget how important real connections are. You could be watching the most inspiring video, or you've, learned some new thing, but without that community, without that connection, how does it really integrate? How do you really solidify that, or share and demonstrate how you're using it and be celebrated because of it? So, I mean, community is something we're always thinking about in terms of, how do we foster real, meaningful connections, and that not necessarily be something that we do, but how do we facilitate that, so then young people feel empowered to do that with each other, and we kind of make ourselves redundant as well. We're just kind of like an architect in a way. But yeah, we can jam about that sometime. That'd be cool as. I know there's a lot of people coming along that are looking for ways to give back and to mentor, and that might be a cool pathway as well. I've got a couple of other questions, and I want to wrap up soon though, because
and just quickly as well, that's a massive element of what I think sport and music and all of those activities are about. As I said, I've made my best friends through sport, and absolutely. And some of the big, it's not the sport that you're doing, it's the fact that you're getting out of your comfort zone together and sharing experiences that brings you together, and then you start to get, I hate this word because it's so thrash, but like you start to get vulnerable together, and because people are seeing you when you're not when you don't have your guard up in it, you wish if you're in a rowing boat, you're slogging it out in the pain locker, hoping that the other person is doing exactly the same and relying on that as well. Or if you're in a business team together and you guys and the team of volunteers are slogging it out, you're not getting paid because you really believe in the kaupapa and you're believing it's helping people. That brings people together, and like going through that struggle together is what makes you better and stronger in the end. But sorry, next question.
It's good. This conversation did not go the way I initially thought, but I'm going with it. It's cool. Okay, we've got 2 more questions, and I want to come back to, I know that there's people on the call that are thinking, okay, how do we turn an idea into reality? So I'm trying to hear from you. If you could only pick 5 ingredients in a startup recipe, what would they be and why?
Reading, right? So it doesn't have to be reading, you can listen. Gary V, if you're trying to do any startup and you don't know who Gary V is, honestly, people laugh. People laugh because everyone does it, but my goodness, I've got so much value off that guy, and so many people around the world have got so much value off that guy. And he literally does, like, in watch him much anymore. Every now and then I'll just check in on what he's saying about, or more what he's doing. As he'll say, don't listen to what I'm saying, watch what I'm doing. About once every 3 or 4 months, I'll just watch a little bit of Gary Vee, and he's like, oh yeah, his messages are on point. So Gary Vee, right? But Gary Vee's just a micro in the macro that is continual learning, and learn how you learn. Read a couple of books and listen to an audiobook. Listen to an audiobook and then read the chapter of the same book. What chapter did you bring in? Take in more. If you learn your learning style, it's so much more effective. Not only how you learn, but also in your job. Like, hey, don't email me that. Just tell me what we need to do. If you're an audible learner or if you're a doer or something. So that's why continual learning. I think Robert Kiyosaki is where I first learned that from, like way back in the day. That's Rich Dad Poor Dad stuff. And then for me at the moment, it's storytelling. That's something that we always did really well right from the get-go. And it was, these days, what that looks like is video. One of the questions I'm asking myself, we've got an in-house videographer. One of the questions that I'm starting to ask myself is, do I need two? And some people are going to look and go, oh man, like, is that a little bit excessive? I don't think it is, because they don't spend all their time doing video, but those they can do initiative activation and do all of the core Waterboy work stuff. But when we need more video, at least we've got two people who are skilled in that area that can go on and just pump out video, and so key. So storytelling, preferably in video, continual learning, get the right people around you, like Saskia, who's had been talking on this. She's a weapon of a designer, man. And like, there are weapons of people out there. When we used to have this cruddy old, I shouldn't say cruddy because I didn't design it, but I approved it. At the time, I thought it was a great logo. And then Saskia's like, no. And I was thinking, what are you talking about, Saskia? Anyway, I trusted her to go and do her stuff, and then we always get complimented these days on our brand. And the brand, it's a reason that we've been able to partner with like household brand organizations, your Craig's Investment Partners, and your Good George, and the numerous other ones that have supported us. And that's purely because we've got a strong brand, and it's consistent, and she's got a brand guidelines, and like, it's pretty cool for this little 4 or 5 person full-time employee organization to be sending the chiefs the brand guidelines and saying, hey, this is how you've got to use our brand, and just having that asset there. But that's again something that I picked up from reading and from learning. So that comes directly out of 24 Assets by Daniel Priestley, and actually writing the book comes out of Key Person of Influence by Daniel Priestley itself. So it all just goes back to that continual learning, because people tell you what to do. People put their life's work and their life's knowledge into books. They don't just tell you what they did yesterday, or they put their best knowledge into that book. And you're like, okay, you can spend so long sitting here listening to me and you chat, but like, and you can do that time and time again, but there's all this amazing knowledge in audiobooks and podcasts and stuff. And if Daniel Priestley, for example, is one. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, get good people around you. A treasurer, when you get to a certain level, like I hacked away at it for a while. As soon as I got a treasurer, it just made the world of difference. And it was Jay Fisher at the start, and he's doing his London OE at the moment, and now it's Daryl Fitzgerald. They're just weapons, man. They are so good, and they just pump time into it because they believe in the kaupapa and what we're trying to achieve. And for them, they slog away at. Jay used to work at Deloitte's, and Daryl slogs away at PwC, and I'm sure he gets good satisfaction out of it. But I go so far as to say we're probably his most satisfying client. And he gives us 100% discount, which is amazing. So, And by the way, we start at 6 o'clock in the morning, so we're always up. Obviously, when we're not in level 4 or level 3 lockdown, we're up in the office at 6 a.m. and then Daryl trots off to start his normal day job at 8:30, just over the road. So, a mess. And on that note, just a huge shout out to all of our volunteers, particularly Saskia and Daryl, because they've got so much expertise and they give us so much to make the organisation. But it's an example of, like, I can only just help bring everyone together. I don't have the skills and expertise and knowledge that they do, and they're so amazing. So storytelling, continual learning, get the right people around. Perspective, that's a real easy one. Just like, it can only get so bad. Okay, what's the worst case scenario, et cetera, et cetera. And then what would be the other one? There is bound to be some other ones. I just haven't self-analysed enough. It would be, self-analysis and self-awareness is one of them, because there is all of this, but you don't want to burn out. There's that balance between working hard and burning out, and being able to be self-aware about that. Looking after up here, looking after the physical element, and sometimes you got to push balance to the side for a little bit. Like, you go through periods of having to go what I do call beast mode, and it's like, okay, and that just means I'm concentrated fully on work for a while, and sometimes I do sacrifice sleep. I don't recommend it. I used to work with Luke Taylor Luke Taylor from Taylor Performance, and like, that's one guy who don't sacrifice any sleep, and he does all the research around why not to, and I fully believe that I shouldn't be, but every now and then I do.
That's self-care. Hey.
Yeah, self-care, and that's the other one. Surround yourself with people that you sort of want to be like and you aspire to be like, because I think the saying is you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and that's the reason, like, why I asked Luke to be my housemate. That's the reason why I asked Greg Johnson to be my housemate, and he's just upstairs cooking dinner right now. But those guys are weapons, and my wife, Soph, she's a weapon. Like, and those are just people that I aspire to be like, and I want to be around all. I don't want to be exactly like them, but there are elements of their character that I really admire, and I want to take and replicate in my life. And if you can have enough of those people and drop off enough of the people that you don't want to necessarily be like,
that's so good. And it's hard though, like, if you've got an idea, you want to make it happen, but you don't know any people that are a couple of steps ahead of you, or that you've really looked up to, or you've realized that you don't have that support there. I think that was one of the big reasons why I wanted to start Seed, is like, where do you go to meet people that are like-minded, like-valued? And it'll be really interesting as we go through the next kind of couple of months to see how we do that, and be that connector and convener and enabler for people that are wanting more for themselves, more for the people around them. And
if I'm completely honest as well, I've been really, really lucky in that I've had good support from, I suppose, my family have, my parents have been, I've been well supported by my parents' reputation within their friends, and sometimes like, I'd meet someone and they would have known my old man, maybe not personally, or that they might have had some work to do with him or something or other, and the same as mum as well, and I've had a good network through them, let's say. Now that's beneficial, and it's one of the situations that I've found myself in that are really lucky. It's what Malcolm Gladwell calls an outlier, but it doesn't necessarily. It's an advantage, but it's not a game changer if you don't have that, right? Potentially, what you can do there is partner with someone who does, to be able to get that. And you obviously got to have all the other elements in terms of shared value and what you're trying to achieve. But that's why I think Seed's so wicked for people who perhaps don't necessarily have the network. But also with the network, you got to have you got to do what you say you're going to do. You got to have integrity. But different people have got different skills as well, and some people are great at a networking event, and I hate those networking events personally.
Oh gosh, I cringe.
I think everyone does. It's just the whole concept of it, the whole concept of going along and meeting people in a forced environment. The more natural and authentic it can be, I think, the better, and that's when you actually get your best connections. But if you can,
cool, that's cool. I'm thinking as I reflect back what the 5 biggest ones are for me in a recipe. I would have to say, number 1 is that you got to know why you're doing what you're doing, because when it's really hard and there's no money left and you've had 10 no's and things aren't working, it just isn't making sense, you've got just issues stacked on issues. When you know so clearly why you're doing what you're doing, it can just take you through any storm. And for it to be something of service to the community or of service to the world or whatever it is, something bigger than yourself, I think it's so motivating to just keep going, because it's not about you. You got to get out of your own way. It's about your why, your purpose, and your ability to translate that purpose to be of service. So I think get your why right, have that heart there. And if you're not sure why, then that's okay. Just get inspired, have a look around, see what's going on, what things frustrate you, what things get you excited, what do you want to be a part of? When you leave the planet, what do you want to be remembered for? I think those are some of the questions that really supported me in those earlier days. And just what
makes you angry, right? Like, I remember again, excuse my language, but I remember like watching or hearing about kids wanting to play rugby and netball and they weren't because they couldn't afford it. I said, that is bullshit. That really got on my wick. And I was like, I knowing how much I've got out of that should be a human right. And I could tell how passionate I was about that. And I was like, I'm going to fight for this. And
so good.
I 100% agree with what you're saying there, Jen.
When I look back, it has to be like when I realized that I had put glass ceilings on myself, or that society had given me labels and said, oh, actually, no, that's as far as you'll go. When I realized that that's just a limiting belief, or that's just something that has been put there, it doesn't actually exist. I think that for me was just like, whoa, if I was able to smash through my glass ceiling, how many other young people are living in a tiny box because they think that's all they're worth, that's all they're capable of, that's all their potential is? And that's, I just froth over the potential of young people. I just think, oh goodness, isn't it just so exciting when we smash our glass ceilings and dream big and take action? Like that's my little froth zone, you know? And I think the other thing for me has to be about progress over perfection. And if I waited until I knew everything I needed to know to start seed, I would never start. Even this last week, doing a debrief and some reflections, I realized I really fucked a few things up. And I'm just like, part of me is like, oh, you should have known better. And, oh, you should have, shoulda. And I was like, you know what? I'm in the arena. I'm doing it. I'm learning. And I have integrity around that learning piece where I'm like, yeah, sometimes we get it wrong and we're going to learn from it and we're going to pick ourselves up and keep going, because we're about progress over perfection and just aligning back to those values every time. Okay, we didn't do it so right. Okay, cool. Let's go back to our values. What really matters here? How can we learn and evolve and change so that this looks different in the future? And I think being a young person doing something like this as well just naturally means that you don't know what you don't know about a lot of things. So I've just accepted the fact that I'm just done with something. I'm yet to learn some things, but it's more important to me to just be doing stuff than to be focused
in the arena, right?
Yeah.
Heart out. So much truth in that. And the other one that came to mind when you're talking about that is just like incremental gains. Well, if you just go after I remember our very first major sponsorship was 5 Stags in Cambridge, and And Matt, I'm sure it's been years now, so I'm sure he won't mind us saying the value. He said, yep, we'd never actually done this before. It was just an idea in my head. He said, yep, I'll give you $2,000 to go toward that. And I was like, jumping around. And like, I think last year, our last financials is we just turned over 330,000 or something or other just for last financial year. But that first $2,000 feeling that I remember was just like, and always so thankful for Matt for believing in the concept and believing in me as a person, because it was just me in those days. But then from when we had 5 stags, then we were able to like build on that, and then I think pretty soon after that we had Blue Wallace, who was still one of our major like supporters, and then people look and say, oh, well, Blue Wallace are on board. Then New World Te Rapa came on board, and then Craig's investment partners got in contact with me. I didn't even get in contact with them because they'd been watching me for a while. And then it's and by the way, Craig's investment partners do some amazing work in the community. They're always looking to support people, and they're led by a bloke called John Tanner, who's just got a heart of gold, and he's just wants the best for the Waikato. So plug for sponsors there, but we've got.
Our first moment was probably when we counted up the kōrero. Everyone that came to our first event, it was a kōrero entry, so we counted up the jar. I think there might have been 70 or so people at the first event. And the crew, we went, I don't know, probably went to KFC afterwards or something, and talking about the night and still buzzing, and we counted the kōrero jar, and I think there would have been like $60 in there or something. But we were like, oh my God, we did it! Like, and I look back now and I go, oh my goodness, $60. What we put in to make that happen, from getting different legal structures set up to building a committee and having guiding documents and building an event framework and finding speakers and organizing it. And there's so much that went into it. But it was like the first stepping stone, you know? So it's, progress over perfection, I think, is just so important. And then I think a couple of others are having those mentors, whether that's like reading books or actually having people in your life that will really challenge you. And I think a sign of a really good mentor is someone that helps you remember the truth or helps draw the truth out of you. They're not there to tell you what they think is the best thing to do, unless you've asked them. But they really care about you and where you want to go with your vision, and just kind of help carve a bit of a path for you to support you to kind of take the next step down there. I think,
and if you can show progress to your mentors, they'll back you even more. If you have a meeting with your mentor and they say, okay, I'll do this, and then you go back and then you come back to them a couple of months later, you haven't done any of it, they'll be like, oh, all right. But if you've done that and you can show them that it's made a difference, eventually, like one of the, Julie Hardacre has just become a trustee, because I used to just ask her, like, hey, can you sit down with me for coffee? What shall I do? And she'll give me all these tasks. I'll go away and do them. They pay dividends. And then I asked her, like, about a year ago, I said, Julie, will you be a trustee? And she's like, yep. So, sorry, carry on. I'm just saying I 100% agree with you there.
Yeah, wicked, Tom. It's so good. I mean, there's so many synergies, I think, when we start having these conversations. This has to be my favorite thing to talk about, because for me, it was just like, when you realize that you can believe in yourself, and when somebody else believes in you as well, that you can do your dream, that dream can happen. I think, like, there were so many things against me. I've got mental health issues, and on a good day I struggle, you know, and way back then, you know, there was so many challenges from medication. I was still experiencing different psychotic episodes, epic mood swings up different ends with the bipolar. There was just so many things stacked against me not being able to do it. Doctors would tell me that I wouldn't be able to do anything meaningful because I was just so far gone, you know. And it was just like, wow, the fact that even someone like me with my mental health shit can do something. Heck yes, you can do something, young person. And so to be able to have this conversation is so important.
You're really lucky because you've got all that as ammo as to why you can. It's like, F them, I'm going to do this. Like, and it's like, I'm going to prove those wrong. And then if, like, who was it? There's this lady, she runs, I think it's in Cambodia. She runs a charity to help kids, and she's achieving these amazing results. And she reckons it's because the more suppressed or the more poverty-stricken someone's been, they're like a spring, and they've been pushed down, and they can just spring back up even further and use all of that
Yeah,
motivation.
for sure. I mean, it's also really important to say, I think, that there's so many conditions that are really stopping people from being able to pursue their potential. If you don't have food on your table, if you don't have somewhere safe to sleep at night, if you don't have safety, if you don't even have a friend, I mean, some of these basic things that we need to be able to be okay, to even get into a point to be able to dream. I remember one of my mentors said to me, you got to remember, Gemma, it's a privilege to be able to dream. And I was really challenged by that. And I thought, yeah, there's been times where I've had I've had no money, nowhere to live. This is going back like 11, 12 years. I've had no money, nowhere to live.
You're writing a book, Gemma. Yeah, no money, nowhere to live, no job yet.
No job. I've had nothing. And there's just been this tiny bit of self-belief that has carried me through and got me to a point where I was able to meet those kind of basic needs and then move up a level and think about how I can, okay, now that I know how to get through a day and I know how to feed myself and I know how to what else is out there? You kind of move from surviving to thriving, but I'm so mindful that this is a challenging time and that there are real things getting in the way for people, especially young people, to be able to dream. And so I think it's just so important we are like mindful of that when we have these conversations. I'm definitely aware now that I've got an education. I have really solid mental health support. I'm on medication. These things are helping me do what I do now. So yeah, I'm definitely keen to just understand a little bit more from young people in our region. What are those barriers holding you back from dreaming, and how can we support you to break them down? I think that's a really exciting place to be going.
I'm really, really interested in that too. And in doing Taku Wairua, I'm trying to set up a system that enables people, like I'm trying to systemize that.
Cool.
And because I can only be a mentor to so many people. There's only one Thomas, but if we can systemize that, and what Annette said on here, Gemma, you're brave and amazing. Absolutely, you are. But also the mentor's role is to help you hear the truth. Remember what I said before about like sometimes there are just shit ideas and they probably shouldn't be pursued. You need to come up with a better one. That's what a mentor's for as well, and just really good close things. But also, if it's a great idea, they're there to say, no, don't give up. It's a great idea. You just haven't it yet. Yeah, it's just that awareness thing. But yeah, have we got overtime? Have we got any more questions? I
always have questions, but I'm going to leave it there because I need to go do mum duties. It's dinner time and bath time, and I never, ever want to miss bath time with Mr. Malachi because it is so much fun, and I'm a water baby as well. I'm a Pisces, so I'm going to leave it there, but Nabbs, thanks so much for jumping on tonight and sharing a little bit more about Waterboy, with the great work that you're doing, your journey to building something, some of the key learnings and I guess your advice and ideas around how to support young people to get started on something that they care about. So if anybody, I'll just put it out there, because I just care so much about this, if anyone's on this call or is watching this afterwards that really has a project they want to bring to life and they're in the Waikato region, reach out to Nabbs and I. Feel free to ask questions and perhaps there's ways that we can support you through our different connections and different support to be able to bring that to life, because how cool would it be if our region was the hub of innovation for young people, where we just had this energy, this force of young people that were just doing epic shit. So yeah, thanks for jumping on, Nabbs. If anyone wants to reach out to you, maybe you can drop a comment on the live in our feed afterwards of just how people can reach out. And we will talk again soon. Any last things you want to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say I'll put in a plug for Taku Wairua as well, because it actually has a very strong alignment with a lot of the stuff that we've just talked about here. And that is, you can do your own online sessions, and you can become a mentor or ask to have a mentor to work through those. And that's takuwairua.co.nz, and then just work down your way down to online sessions. That's those have been made with myself, but also David Galbraith's been looking over those. So he's a psychologist for 20 years and works with both clinical psychology, but also real high performance psychology too. So it's a real good mix there, and it's an amazing resource to have for free, especially in lockdown when we've got that time and that stronger need for connection. But also, Jim, I want to say congratulations on the mahi that you do with Seed. I think you are an inspiration to so many people, myself included. I always check over and see what Seed are doing, and if there's any tips that I can pick up off them. And I remember in the early days when we first met at the Hustle, shout out to Abby Naylor, that's another really beneficial thing that's supported the Waterboy. The amount of people that I've met from the Hustle and just, again, having those conversations and meeting people in person is just amazing. But well done on the work that you do, Jim, and with the whole Seed team, because no one can do it alone. I know that very well. And keep up the good work, and thanks to everyone who's watching and part of Seed, because it's pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks so much, Nabbs. The volunteers are the backbone. It's them that are driving some epic stuff. Hey, thanks everyone for jumping on the call. Really appreciate you taking some time to have this conversation with us. And if you're watching this later, thanks for tuning in, and we will be back next week with some more Q&As. Sid's going to be launching some workshops soon as well online, which will be cool, so keep an eye out for them. And have an epic evening. Whānau, ka kite.
Ka kite.